everyone. Got Kadin WIllis on for this episode. Kadin, you've just got your hands dirty, mate. Retell that story.
Oh, well. Yeah, so we're living on a farm with my partner and her sort of family. They live up on the next house up, and all the siblings come running down before to see if I could go give them a hand to home kill a goat, one of their sort of domestic goats they got running around out the back. So popped out there and give them a hand. They shot this goat and just showed them how to gut it and all of that sort of jazz. And one of the young fellas carried it back up the hill to the truck, which was quite cool. And then once I finish this, I'll show them how to skin it and cut it all up. And I've got a pig hanging up next to it that I'll have to do as well to sort of show them how it goes. So it's quite cool.
Nice. How old are they?
The young fella Fletcher's 11, and the older one's 16. So Zach, who's 16, he shot it, and yeah, young Fletcher carried it back up the hill. Yeah, Fletcher loves it. I took him out hunting the other day because we're quite lucky here. We've got a few porkers running around here and there, and I've seen a mob of pigs out the kitchen window. And so he was here just after I seen them. So I took him out for his first look at bow hunting and managed to sneak right in on quite a good pig. Got to about 7 or 8 meters. Lined it up and I smoked it with the bow, and maybe went. I would have been lucky to go 30 meters. And so it was pretty cool. It was his first sort of look into bow hunting, and he seemed to love it.
Legend. Yeah. So we're about, what sort of region are you based in?
We're in North Canterbury.
Yeah.
About an hour out of Christchurch, hour and a bit.
Nice. And so you go do most of your work down in Christchurch, is that right?
Yeah. All of my work's in Christchurch, so I travel to and from each day. We do have like the Huranui council contract, which is out around here, sort of things. That's sort of like Hamner Springs and Amberley and all of those sorts of places. Which can be a bit niggly because some days I have to drive all the way to work and then drive all the way back up with work and then back through and then back to where I just was working.
Yeah. So for those people that don't know you, and they should know you, and hopefully a few more people do after this, but what is work, mate? You mentioned the trees. What does it take to be a specialist arborist, mate?
Oh, you got to have a few screws loose. I fit the bill just perfect. So I'm a climbing arborist. I climb for a company, Elite Trees in Christchurch, and I've been around the whole chainsaws and forestry type stuff my whole life. My old man was a forestry contractor, so when I was young and following your old man around and that sort of thing, and in the holidays I'd just go and work in the forestry with him. And then as I grew older, I sort of still liked chainsaws and stuff, but didn't know how to go about it. And then, to be honest, out of the blue, I just jumped on TradeMe, looked at jobs. The first one that popped up, I rang the bloke up and asked if he'd consider taking on a trainee. And he said, right, okay, send me your CV and that sort of thing. And then he invited me up for an interview and stuff, and he offered me the job that day. And never looked back. That was just over 3 years ago now.
Nice. And so with the training for that, is that all on job? I know Brenton Halua, he was doing it through Unitech, I think, up in Auckland when I was playing rugby with him.
Oh yeah.
What did you do?
I just did it on the job, like an apprenticeship, same sort of setup as building. It's run through primary ITO.
Nice.
And yeah, done it through that. Or there's a Dunedin Polytech or Otago Polytech, and that one up in Auckland do it as well.
Yeah.
That's the quicker way to do it. I think it's only like 6 months or a year, and you're fully qualified, but you don't have the same on-job sort of experience.
Which I'd imagine is quite important. Is that right? What's the, like you said, apart from a few screws loose to sort of lead climb up a tree, what's sort of the important aspects of getting safe, secure position up there and being able to lock the tops off and make it smaller?
You just got to get into it, really. It's, you just got to have a go. I was quite lucky. My boss was really good for that. Just have a go, find a small tree, nice one, and they'll show you all the things. When I first started, I was right into it. I'd watch YouTube videos on the weekends. I'd climb in between hunts, and all of that, even after work at lunchtime, if we had a contract climber in who's obviously really good at it, I'd just pick their brain all day, and then at lunchtime I'd climb a tree, and sort of just went from that, and then progressed and got really good at working in small trees at that point. I was working them really well and really fast, and then progressed from that into medium trees, and then moved that from medium trees to big trees. And so it's quite neat how it all progresses. I've never come across a job where you're learning so much, because there's so many different aspects. Every tree has different types of wood, whether it's a rigid sort of wood or a soft wood or all of that sort of jazz. So you got the different trees, different wind, over different obstacles. So it might be over a house. At the end of last year, I done a massive pine tree that was over the Hamner water supply. So over the big water tank that Hamner has for their water. And then at the start of this year, I was working at a big mid-eye in Christchurch, and we had to crane out 2 massive poplars over one of their office building and things like that. So there's so many different aspects, so many different things to it. Not just.
Oh, here's a man that's worked with TV, getting the lighting right.
Yeah.
Mate, are you into timber sports? It's one of my favourite events on the timber sports. That bloody pole I saw for the first time at the Easter show in Auckland. These guys, they've had sort of like spikes on their shoes. They clambered up, knocked the top off this pole, and then just basically dropped down this pole.
That's mad. I've seen it on TV, and that just looks mental, eh? I think because they did a arb section at that, so some arborists entered and stuff, and a guy, Scott Forrest, won it, and that guy's like a freak of nature up a tree. I watched him at the national climbing competition last year, and he took the whole lot out, and he's just incredible to watch up a tree. But that timber sports, there's absolutely no way my knees would handle coming down like what they do. They literally just like jump, and then sort of catch themselves, go around like this on the way down. It's mental.
Yeah, down in uni, I was good mates with a guy from Tuatapere who was pretty good on an axe, and I think he was world champion on the twin saw or Jack and Jill saw for a while there. But yeah, no, timber sports is when you get to the Easter show or bloody field days and stuff. It's one of the things to definitely go along and check out, because, like you say, you just think, doing firewood, you grab an axe or a chainsaw, and there's nothing to it. But climbing trees and like you say, the arborist competitions where they sort of navigate themselves around trees and stuff. It's like climbing with practical skills all into one. It's awesome.
Oh, that's right. My one of our newest sort of workmates, he puts it into perspective really, really well. Like being at those climbing comps, watching people like Scott Forrest climb, it's like being at the pub and watching someone really good play pool. So you're like, oh yeah, that looks easy. And then you jump off the sky, you're like, nah, I give up. Climbing trees is exactly the same. It's quite a hard case.
Yeah, no, playing pool, darts. I was down in Martinborough 2 weeks ago, and we were at the pub, and there's darts around. It was just trying to hit that triple 20. It was you're dreaming.
Yeah, that's right. And then you have just the right amount of beers, and you're away. And then you have half a beer too many, and she's out the gate again.
Yeah. Or someone who knows what they're doing comes along, and you're like, oh, I don't know, shit.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Oh, I thought I was doing well.
Mate, so like you mentioned, the old man was involved with the forestry, and I've sort of listened to your story on the Educated Hunter and seen some of the stuff you've put up on the New Zealand bowhunting page and things like that. Growing up, bowhunting with your old man, was him being in and around forests did it sort of help with access? He sort of had the scout on a few animals, or it was still very much exploring and learning skills.
Exploring and learning skills. It definitely helped with the access. So like our property out in the Marlborough Sounds, he planted the pine trees. So he's a silviculture contractor. Mm-hmm. And so he planted the pine trees when he was younger in this big bay. And then the person that he was working for said, oh, we're trying to sell that hill over there. Do you know anyone that might buy it? So I thought, and he had a bit of money saved away. He was about to buy a Harley. and he thought about it, went and talked to the bank and that sort of thing, and he brought it, never looked back. He's had it now for, I think, 27 or 28 years.
Yeah.
And he 100% to this day says it was the best thing he ever done. And that all come about from the forestry.
Mm-hmm.
Because growing up, that's where I did the majority of my hunting. In later years, he had some access to other parts of the forest and things like that, but that's just from working for the same guy. I think he worked for him for 24 years or something before old mate had to sell his forest. So we had pretty good access through that, but I sort of drifted off. So I hunted with him flat out growing up. When I was a kid, I just followed him around like there was no tomorrow, and he was bow hunting flat out, shooting big boars and stags and all sorts of things. He was in his prime as such. And then as I grew older, I sort of followed him around and shot a few bits and pieces with him. And then once I got my sort of driver's license, just like anyone does, I sort of drifted off a little bit to do my own thing. And then that's when I discovered alpine animals. So chamois and tahr, and just chase them flat out. Like every day I had, I'd be in the hills chasing chamois.
Awesome, mate. And so, you know, that driver's license age 16 or so, Marlborough's sort of small town New Zealand. Did you go out there with a few mates, or was, you know, getting back to school with people? Like, what'd you get up to on the weekend, or what was the story there?
Pretty much. I had a couple of friends that I did a few bits and pieces with, but the majority of it was on my own. Sort of, it just depended. Like, yeah, I had a couple of mates that were into bow hunting. Anyone that was sort of into rifle hunting didn't really get an invite. But had mates that were just getting into it at the same time, and so we did heaps of bow hunting and stuff. Or mates that wanted to get into bow hunting, we were always pig hunting with dogs as well. So we were taken for a walk with the dogs and things like that. But when I can't remember what age, but yeah, when I got my restricted license, the first thing I brought after that, because I'd already brought a truck before I even had my license. I had a truck, and then I saved up and brought a little boat. So I was like 16 or 17. I had a truck and a boat, and I was just, it was unreal. We just into the sounds. I had mates that were into freediving as well. We all sort of started freediving at the same time, and we were just into it. Like, I remember if the weather was really good or the water was good, after school we'd have the boat in the water and diving every day. Still to this day, I'm not sure how I afforded it. There was a few like, "Oh, Dad, can we borrow $20 for fuel? I'll give you some powers and fish and stuff." Right.
Yeah, mate. And so, what sort of parallels do you see between sort of freediving, spearfishing, and, you know, archery on the land, or bow hunting on the land?
Oh, huge amounts, really. I just think those sort of things are quite challenging. I never really liked fishing that much growing up, until I discovered fly fishing, because it had that aspect similar to bow hunting that makes it a lot more challenging. And I'm still no good at it. But, I enjoy it, but the spearfishing's the same thing. You're underwater, you're stalking around, and that sort of thing. Just the same as if you're bow hunting. And recently this year even, I've got into fishing. It's more of a family type thing. So I thought, with kidlets and all of that sort of thing, I'd sort of get into it. So I went and spent far too much money on fishing gear and that sort of thing, and been doing quite a bit.
Yeah, and got out there with Sam Wild. You know, he's been on Hunters Club a few times as well. You two had a good time in Stewart Island 2 seasons ago. What's it like having him as a copper?
Oh, he's a legend, absolute legend, that bloke. Although he is ginger, but I won't. He's a really good rooster. He helps me a lot with my photography type stuff, and we just have really good missions. He's actually from just over the hill, so he's from Nelson, and we've been mates for years and years. We first that trip to Stewart Island was actually our first time hanging out. Really, we'd organised heaps of missions before, but they just hadn't quite worked out. But he's an all-round pretty good bloke. Incredible what he does with his video and stuff, eh?
Yeah.
Like those who went to the premiere night the other day for the Hunter's Journal. The film that the South Sea Sparrows had there chasing marlin was incredible. I'm sure you would have seen the photos he's put up on his Instagram. But that just his video and photo work is second to none, really.
Yeah, mate. Do you know if Cam's put those up on the website yet? We had a question when I was on Hunting Camp Down Under podcast talking with Toby Hines. We were hoping it was on that Sunday. We were hoping that he's put those videos up. Do you know if he's chucked them up yet, or not sure?
I'm not sure if he will put them up.
Oh,
he might. I'll talk to him. I'll give him a ring.
Mate, there's a lot of people that missed out, myself included.
Yeah, mate, it was pretty cool. It was the thing that I loved was we were sitting in a cinema with, I think they sold out the tickets. There was 160 tickets, I think. They sold them all out.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're sitting in a cinema watching hunting buff, spearfishing and bow hunting. How often do you get to do that with all sorts of like-minded people? It was incredible. I loved it. And then we all just went to the pub and had a couple of beers and talked way too much about hunting.
Yeah, I saw Josh James had some cracker videos from the after party, whatever that house was. His building inspection of that house was bloody hilarious. He basically thought the house was built like a barn or with a whole bunch of different levels and the bath that was built underneath the stairs and things. Sort of bloody cracker.
Oh, get that out. That'd be a hard case.
I think it's one of those ones that he just had on his story that'll disappear, although his YouTube channel's always pretty cracker. Mate,
that's it.
I was talking to someone that was there, and it was basically a case of who's that face, and quickly checking on the Instagram, putting the face to the name, and then started the conversation. How was it?
It was pretty much like that, or lots of people that I've talked to on Instagram or yarn to them heaps and that sort of thing, and suddenly you're like, oh, that's them. And so it was really cool to put faces to names and all of that sort of jazz and actually be able to sit down, have a beer and catch up with them. It was really cool.
You know, I had the exact same moment the Thursday before in Martinborough. I was in the pub there, and there's a guy goes by the handle Ultralight Hunting, and I sort of saw this bloke in the pub. I was like, holy shit, that's that guy. So yeah, we roll into things as neighbours. We had this big yard all night. My mates were kind of looking at me like, what the heck's going on with these two? And it was exactly that. He was bringing up topo maps and showing me places in the Rohinis and things and terrors. It was great.
Okay, that's ideal.
Yeah, mate. And so on the social media thing, like you've sort of pushed the Facebook page for bow hunting in New Zealand, and you know it's definitely helped my learning curve. What do you think? You know, I think that event highlights how much of an awesome tool it can be. On the flip side, how have you found sort of managing a page like that and managing people's expectations and reactions?
That Bowhunter's Facebook page, it can be really niggly at times, really niggly, because we have a huge amount of people that follow that page, but not everyone's happy. But like you say, it's an awesome tool to get the sport out there. That's why I have my my personal bow hunting Facebook page and my Instagram. It's not for self-promotion as such. It's more or less promoting the sport that I've grown up and loved. So I think it's a really awesome tool for that. And like you say, it's quite neat that like someone like yourself sort of thing can jump on there and put a video up and like, oh guys, what do you think of this? Am I doing this right? And that sort of thing. And then you've got so many different people that can comment on it and let you know what they think of it in different form or different YouTube channels to look at, and all of that sort of thing. So that's quite neat.
Yeah, and you're always sort of saying to anyone that comes on new to go to the bow shops. Like there's not many in New Zealand, but they do a good job of sort of covering the country. For you, am I right in saying your bow shop's up north?
Yeah, my bow shop's up in Northland, Arrowhead Archery, but it doesn't I don't know. To me, it doesn't really matter about where it is. I've just always just rang them up and ordered me stuff, and away I went. Because there's different things. Your best bet is to call the shop at the very least and just have a yarn. So like Trevor's really, really good to chat to. He's the highest qualified archery coach we have here in New Zealand. And so he's incredible to yarn to about shooting and things like that, but also setting up a bow and what you actually need. So there's different equations and things to work out your draw length. That's the main thing to work out when you get into the bow hunting. But like you measure your wingspan, there's an equation to work out what your draw length actually is. But the best bet is, like straight off the bat, you'd be better off just to fly to the shop, go to the shop and get it all set up and everything properly. So like, I think it was last Christmas, I flew up to Whangarei there, went and caught up with Trevor, sorted out my new bow, got it all set up and made sure everything was perfect. We found that I'd been shooting the wrong draw length, things like that. So we stretched that out and all of that sort of thing and got that bow shooting incredible. I've never had a bow that shot so well. And that was all just because I went up there and had a look and went over a few things with him, and he tried to teach me good form, but it sort of went in here and sort of back out there.
Yeah. And so, you know, you've been doing it for a long time. What was it sort of like to get someone critique and try change up a few things? Like you said, it sort of came in and out.
Well,
what have you noticed since?
I shoot a longer draw length. It's a tough one, that one. So what happens is, like, so I'll go and shoot a couple of arrows and Trevor will give me a few things to work on. But the main thing with that, if I have any really bad habits, that's when he'll pick them up.
Mm-hmm.
But then if you don't have any bad habits, you can shoot pretty good, then it's sort of not really a problem. But then in saying that, I went to Stewart Island with Trevor and his son Justin and a couple of other friends last year in May. And we took down a 3D target and set it up on the beach. I took some videos. I should put them up on my Instagram at some point. And we're all shooting down there and we're all shooting pretty good. But watching Trevor shoot, man, was something else. So I was sort of grouping, that looks really big. About this big, say at 50 meters, and Trevor pretty much had his arrows like touching at 50, and it was mental, yeah. But he went to, where did he go last year? He went and shot in the world champs and done really, really well. Don't quote me, but I'm pretty sure he won the whole thing for his sort of age group.
Wow,
pretty old, but.
But there's the sort of next level stuff, eh? Like, I sort of did what a lot of people do and probably should do, and went on knock on archery, and then of course it's, you know, you look at Dudley and he sort of shot at these championships in the States, and then so you flick on to those competitions, and like you say, they're shooting out 50 meters, 60 meters, just nailing these.
100%. I look at that, man. I'm like, I hardly do that at 30 meters, let alone that far. Yeah. But that's who I recommend people checking out on Instagram is John Dudley, 100% Knock On TV. I've never actually looked at his YouTube. Cam Henderson said his YouTube's a bit tricky because he puts so much stuff on. Yeah. But I follow him on Instagram and just look at his stories, and he has so many little tips and hints and things. But the cool thing with him is he started as an archer, same as like Trevor did. Mm-hmm. But he went to the Commonwealth and all of that, and he represented the USA for years, John Dudley, and then went from that and just transferred that to hunting. So the thing with that, Cam Haynes is exactly the same. So they practice, make sure they're shooting perfect. And then when they go out hunting, then they're away. So even myself, I'm pretty terrible for practicing. I should do far more than what I do. But that's a tricky thing with living so far from work. I leave in the dark, I get home in the dark, pretty much even in the summertime. And but like before a trip, so last week before lockdown, I flew into a last raw block with the Hunters Club. Yuli, Cam Henderson, and myself flew in there. And leading up to a trip like that, I shot my bow every day for about a month and a half, 2 months.
Yeah, you
To
have
make
to
sure everything was good.
take a leaf out of Cam Haynes' books and take that hour off lunch and smash a few while you're at it.
I think my boss would tune me up.
You're just rocking someone's backyard. I'm just going to shoot some arrows while I'm here.
Oh, 100%. When I first started working where I was, that was just after the earthquake. Just after the earthquake in Kaikoura. So we had to do a heap of tree work up there to clear the inland road. So that was that was the only way to get to and from Kaikoura for a long time. So we had to clear trees to better view, and so you could see up the road and all of that sort of jazz. And when we were up there, I had a target in the back of the truck quite often, or even in the just one of those little square targets. And I'd throw it out at lunchtime, and I'd shoot my bow. If we were waiting for traffic management, I'd shoot my bow all the time. So that was quite neat. But that was an incredible place because I had a couple of properties I could hunt. So we were there all through the raw, I'm pretty sure. So if I had time before daylight savings changed, I'd be out and I'd be chasing stags and shooting pigs and all sorts of things. So it was quite neat.
It's bloody awesome, mate. And so you brought up the Hunters Club and getting in a hunt there at Haas. What was sort of planned for this month, and what are you guys missing out on? Dave Shaw must be pulling his hair out.
Oh, mate, I've got my calendar just here next to me, and I've only filled in till late May because if I fill in too much, it looks like I'm away too much. But it was pretty booked out. That's all I had with the Hunters Club for the raw, where I was supposed to be up north for 10 days next month to hunt red stags up the East Cape and Sika and around the central North Island, and we're going to try and do a little bit of filming there. But that's sort of gone out the window. But this whole staying at home thing, as frustrating it is in the middle of the raw, it's for the better thing. I'd rather sit at home and be bored out of my mind than have to go to a team of funerals sort of thing.
That's right. That's right. No, that's an excellent perspective, mate. And you kicked off day one with getting a pest, the magpie, in perfect location. Have you been after the small game, the mice and rats?
Nah, I don't actually have any mouse traps, to be honest with you. So we live out in the country here, and we got a big sort of super bin type thing that we chuck our rubbish in. And I lifted the lid up the other day to have a look in, and there are a heap of mice in there. So I was in there trying to get them with a bit of 2x4. So I didn't have much luck. So I should set a few traps in there and a couple of traps in the in the hay barn. There'll be heaps in there.
Yeah, yeah. No,
but I've been cracking up at all the videos and photos and things, and everyone's having a blast about that whole mouse hunt lock-up thing. It's been quite neat what everyone's been coming up with. Like I seen one the other day, someone was hoisting a mouse out with a remote control helicopter. I've got quite the plan for a funny photo. I've just got to catch a mouse. So, see how that goes.
Yeah, I was Tommy, not Tom, Montepero. He had a mouse under his fridge yesterday, and I was giving him a good yarn, and he sort of gave it a score and things like that. And yeah, sort of saying to him, it was bloody good to get on a hunt with the kids and things like that, mate. Having wee ones, how important do you think it is handing on? For you got to hand it on from your old man. What do you feel about handing it on again?
Oh, it's awesome. I think it's such a cool thing. You should have seen us last night. I think the missus is a little bit sick of it. I don't blame her. Well, I had a roaring horn, and the wee man had found something that kind of resembled a roaring horn, and we were roaring at each other and hind calls and all sorts. And then we snuck over to the sliding door. We got like a sliding door with a big sort of gully down below us, and he snuck over there and stag. I'm like, oh no. And so I was sitting there roaring and hind calling this stag, and he run over and he's got this little toy bow, and he runs back to the window with his toy bow and pretends to shoot it, and we're jumping up and down and high fives all round and everything. It's quite neat, and it's very, very fulfilling type thing. My old man's been cracking up. I've been sending him a few photos of the wee man. He'll have his hat on, same as me. I've always got a bloody hat on. He'll have a Stony Creek hat on and his Stony Creek shirt on. He'll be running around with me outside with his gummies on and just trying to do everything he possibly can. I'll send Dad photos and things. I'm like, does this remind you of anyone? And I think he finds that really cool as well.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Mate, you're speaking of hats there, and you've got is it a Vortex hat on at the moment?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Old Yuli got rid of a hell of a collection yesterday. Did you catch up on that?
Oh, I was spewing. I wanted one of those Sims hats because I'm quite a fisherman now. I needed the attire.
I think that one went to Wanaka Hunter, old Nick Visit, actually.
Yeah, there was bloody a team and a half of them. Old SAS dad. That's what we come up with Yuli. We reckon he's got that sort of SAS sort of look.
Tall, the tall fella.
tall and rugged. So when me and Cam, because Cam from the Hunters Journal is pretty hard case, he comes up with some pretty funny things, eh? And when we were on this West Coast trip, we spent a whole day under the fly because it just classic West Coast weather. And yeah, by the end of it, we'd come up with that Yuli looks like a SAS dad.
He give Jocko Willinker a run for his money, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yuli's of course my favourite because he's got the Southland R going.
yeah, definitely. Yeah. No, he's a good rooster, old Yuli.
Mate,
we even got him on the bow when
awesome.
we were down there. We had we flew a target in. So on the last morning we had a little bit of time to kill, and Cam's got a bow and I've got a bow as well, and so Yuli had a go on both bows and that sort of thing, and so that was quite cool. I think he quite enjoyed that.
Yeah. Is Cam an expert now, or is he? I was talking with Khan Adam, and we're at Cam's expense, giving him a hard time that he struggled to pull the thing back. Is he an expert now?
Oh, he still can't pull my bow back.
Sorry, Cam.
But I've got a video on my phone of him trying to pull Dre's bow back.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's quite comical because the video's on Cam. I'm not sure if you've seen it. I'll put it on my story several times. And there's Cam, he's like, and he gets to about there, nah, can't. And I pan the camera around. And Dre, because Dre's obviously right into his CrossFit and he's fit as a fiddle and all of that sort of thing, he's just standing there like, what is going on?
No, it's a pretty amazing thing, drawing back the old bow. Like when I first got mine, I think it was at 50, maybe. And then, I don't know, I think it was from the bowhunting Facebook page, someone sort of said, just, wind it up straight away, train what you think you'll end up doing it. And yeah, sure enough, that extra 20 pounds, all of a sudden I was like, holy cow. But very fast, you sort of muscles recruit and figure out what to do. And what did you used to pull as a youngster, and what are you up to now? And what do you think's necessary as well?
What do I think? What? Sorry.
What do you think's necessary in terms of pulling back?
Well, that's a tough one, and I'm not so sure about the whole just crank it right up and go from there, because you might bust your shoulder, you might do one of your muscles or something along those lines, and then you can't shoot it at all. I was always told by like the shops and things, you should be able to shoot 100 arrows without getting a sore shoulder. And if you get a sore shoulder, then it shouldn't be that much. So yeah, you sort of, well, you don't need that, but you just have to be quite careful with it, because yeah, you might even put like someone starting out completely off because they're having trouble drawing the bow. So the problem with that is if you have trouble drawing the bow even on the targets, how are you going to do it carefully with a big bull tahr standing 10 metres away? Because that's the hardest part about bow hunting, is drawing the bow and making a good shot. So if you're battling to get the bow back in an awkward position, like I know some tar I've been on a steep rocky face and had to draw it in super awkward places and then swing round and things like that. If it's too grunty, you just can't do it, or you might get the full draw and you get cramp in your forearm. Big day on the hill, you compress your forearm when you're drawing it back. You like, I get it reasonably often when I'm in the big country, and I'll be on full draw with, you might have a big bull tar or red stag or whatever in front of you, and your bicep is cramping, and that's not overly ideal. But the poundage, there is no you need to shoot this and you need to shoot that. You just need to be able to shoot well. So you need to be able to place the arrow. So I'm not sure if you saw on my Instagram yesterday, I put on a picture of my first deer. Was a big red stag, big cull thing, massive body. And I was 12 years old when I shot that. And so, yeah, huge big body there. I think we weighed it and it was 125 kilo dressed.
Jesus. And
I shot that with 38 pounds. So I snuck in, got into what was it? About 10 meters, drew back, lined it all up, whacked it right in the chest, and it would have been lucky to run 100 meters. And at that age, I was shooting 38 pound. I probably was only shooting about 25-inch draw length, so only little wee bloody crossbow bolt sort of arrows. And just put it in the right spot, anger away. So that's more what people should focus on, is being able to place the arrow rather than worry about the poundage. But I'm shooting 70 pound currently, and that seems to shoot really well. The bow that I'm shooting pretty quick, so it's hitting really hard. And so that seems to work for me. I can shoot it quite well, and sometimes, and it seems to go well.
Nice. And so you mentioned the creeping into 10 yards, and I've heard you say that most of what you've shot's within 30 yards. How much of bow hunting do you think the reason why that appeals to me is that whole stalking factor? Like, what do you sort of feel about bow hunting? Why, it's this different thing, this different beast, this, if you buy a greater version of hunting.
I'm not so sure, because I grew up doing it. That's all I've ever done. And so even at a young age, I couldn't bring myself to shoot a big game animal with a rifle, because sitting back at 200 meters and just blowing it away doesn't really appeal to me. And don't get me wrong, I'm a massive one for each to their own. You'll never get me breathing down someone's throat saying, oh, that's not hunting, you got to do it with a bow. I'm really big on that. This is what I do, and everyone else can just do whatever they do. It doesn't worry me at all. But to me, sneaking in on an animal that's the easy part. 100%. Pulling off a good shot is the hard part. So I don't know, just over the years, it's sort of, learn a lot more about the different animals and the terrain you're hunting in and how you're going to be able to get in. And a lot of the time, you've got to go the long way with the bow. You might have to go up and around the face to get the wind right first and drop down and all of that sort of jazz. A really big one with the stalking is take note of where the animal is. And that might seem silly, but really take note. So be like, oh, it's next to a slightly bigger punga, or it's next to a cabbage tree in a face of fern, and that sort of thing. Because when you get around on the face, sometimes it's really hard to gauge exactly where it is. So if you can, like in the country when I'm chasing tar and chamois, there's heaps of big rocks. So like, oh, right, I remember my one of my best bulls, I shot it years ago down the Landsborough Valley, down in South Westland in one of the tar ballets. And I seen it way across this valley, and it was on this big face, and it was at the top, but there were several like bus-sized rocks on the way up. So it's like, oh, okay, if I get to this rock here, really good cover, lean out to the next one that's about the size of a bus as well, and then there's a really big rock at the top, and it's sitting underneath that. So once you get on that face, it all looks the same. It's all rocky and that sort of thing. So you just find those different landmarks. And I got right up to the very end rock that was about the size of a bus. And I'd ranged that rock to the rock it was sitting under, and it was 25 meters. So I leant out on full draw, and it shifted slightly. So I leant back in, leant down, leant out again, spotted him, just ranged him. And he was about 20 meters, just feeding happily. And so just drew back, leant out, and smoked him. He barely even made it back past me. So that's a massive one, is keeping those landmarks to be able to work out where you're going. But it just 100% just comes back to the shooting, because that's the hardest part.
And then the connection with range and your pins. How important is a rangefinder?
Well, I am absolutely terrible for not using it. It depends. My old man always said to me, chasing big boars, because in Marlborough that's what's around, and they're built like tanks. They're solid animals, and they're hard to kill, and so you want to make sure everything's perfect. So he always said to me, if you've got to range a big boar, it's too far away. And so I don't know, when I was young, like when I shot that stag that I was talking about before, he wouldn't let me shoot past 15 meters, and he didn't until I was about 15. So a lot of the animals I shot starting out, like there were deer, and I'd shot a chamois by then, and almost shot a tar and all of that sort of thing, and I wasn't allowed to shoot past 15 meters. So that was quite good training for that. But then I sort of, I don't know, progressed that into my older life, and lots more hunting, and just try and get back into that range and just shoot from there. Obviously, if it's a little bit further, or if I'm unsure, or if I have the time, I'll range it 100%. But I've just got a single pin sight, so that's set on 20 meters, and if it's 20 meters or under, then I'll just aim slightly low and let rip, or if it's slightly further, then maybe slightly high and let rip. But like I say, if I have the time, then I'll range it, or if it's past what I think is 20 meters, then I'll try and range it every time, or past 30 especially. But sometimes you just don't have the time. Might be at 30 meters, and my bow shoots pretty flat. I think at 30 meters it only drops about an inch. So if you aim in the middle of the chest, you're going to hit roundabout anyway.
Yeah. And so when you said your man wouldn't let you shoot within 15 meters, did he sort of come in with you? What was sort of the direction that he gave you?
Well, I remember, when I was young, he wouldn't even let me practice past it. It was that's that. I remember when I was younger, I went on this big road trip just to family friends, like his friends and stuff, and they were really good, and took me out to chase small game and bits and pieces and things like that. And I remember shooting at 20 meters at one of their houses, and I couldn't believe it, because it was the first time I'd actually practiced at 20 meters. And I don't know, he just drilled it into me as such at home. And when I was out hunting, I was just sort of just kept it all nice and close. But I think that's benefited my bow hunting now massively. Obviously I miss out on a few animals because I really want to get that next few steps closer. But it's all part of it. You imagine though, you try and shoot anything at 50 meters, it's sort of can be a little bit hit and miss, because I'm not the best shot in the world at all, and so I sort of battle a bit at distance. But then you get into 15, 20 meters, and that's your bread and butter sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. And so where do you think your old man got those values from, and also your old man choosing to be a bow hunter? Where do you think he got those values from?
Well, from memory, I think he got into bow hunting when he was sort of late teens, and then sort of just running around with the recurve. I think he shot a couple of goats and things like that, and then progressed more into his pig hunting. Mm-hmm. And he pig hunted flat out and that sort of thing for a few years. And then about age 25, he got back into bow hunting, and in a big way got right into it sort of thing. Got a compound and was shooting flat out. And so he was actually at the time the quickest person to get the Master Bowhunter Award in the Bow Hunting Society. So he got that in 8 months. So he just got right into it and smashed it.
And so what does he need for that?
So you need to shoot 5 big game species, so 5 different species. You can include 1 fish, so like a shark or a stingray over a certain weight and things like that. and then you've got to get 5 small game awards. So each animal in the Bowhunting Society is allocated a certain amount of points.
Mm-hmm.
So I think from memory, a goat is 5 points, a small game pig is 10 points, possum is 1 point, and I think a rabbit is 2 points. So it's just based on difficulty and that sort of thing. So like a stoat and a ferret is, I think they're 10 points because they're quite tricky. And things like that, like magpies, I think are 5 points, or I don't know, something like that. So the first small game award is 20 points. So you shoot 4 goats, that's your first award. And then I can't remember what they are after that, but you go back to 0 and you're only allowed 20 points per species. So you've got your 4 goats and that's you. Then you might shoot a pig or whatever. So I think the second one is 50 points and then 75. I can't remember what the next one is, but the final one's 100 points. So you need to shoot 100 points, but you're only allowed 20 points per species. Mm-hmm. So that can be a little bit tricky. But that's sort of I guess the pinnacle for a lot of bow hunters in the New Zealand Bowhunting Society is to be able to achieve that Master Bowhunter Award, which is quite a cool thing. And so Dad done that pretty quick. And then when he was really, I guess you'd say, firing on all cylinders, that was right when I was at that age of just wanting to follow him around all the time. Mm-hmm. And himself, he didn't keep everything all close, but he was very good at shooting. But he knew starting out, and obviously I was only very young, shooting light poundage and stuff, I needed to keep it super close. I had to shoot 2-blade broadheads to get max penetration and all of the above sort of thing. But I remember that's where I get the whole practice flat out before a trip, because I remember before he went on a tar hunting trip, he'd shoot all the time. Even after work, he'd go out and he'd shoot at distance and that sort of thing. And I remember years ago, he shot a big bull tar out of the head of the Dobson. And at the time, that went the New Zealand record with the bow. And he shot it at 78 metres.
Wow.
But before that trip, he could have 3 arrows with broadheads and put all 3 arrows into a beer can at 80 metres.
Wow.
Just from shooting over those months leading up to that trip. But before that trip, I remember in that 1 month, he shot a record book boar, a record book stag. When he shot the stag, he shot 4 stags on the one day, and then shot that tar all in 1 month. So the boar and the stags, plus there were other bits and pieces in that month, I was actually following along behind him. Mm-hmm. So I'm not sure if you've seen, but there's a photo on my Instagram of me as, I don't know how old I am, a rugrat pretty much, standing there with this big 12-pointer, and I actually radioed him in on that. Same with the big boar. I was standing right behind him, and he snuck in and smoked this big boar. And I would have been lucky to be 6. I would have been 5, maybe even younger. And so that was quite a cool thing to see. I've seen lots of good boars and things get shot over the years, so I was very privileged with that. But then also that helped encourage some of my school friends to get into bow hunting. Because like I was saying earlier, I'll go to school on Monday and everyone, what'd you do for the weekend? And we're like, went out to Derville and Dad shot a couple of pigs and big boar and caught a big boar with the dogs and he shot a stag and this and that. And then everyone's like, yeah. And after a bit of time, a couple of mates like, yeah. And if I get a bow, reckon you can help me out? Yeah, of course. And so there were quite a lot of friends and that got into bow hunting after those sort of adventures. So that was quite neat.
Mate, what do you think, like, for the parents out there that sort of think, my kid's not old enough? You as a 6-year-old running around the hills, looking back, like, it must give you a lot of confidence to take wee ones out. But for other parents, that might not have grown up with that sort of life, what do you think it proves to them that, hey, go take those kids out there? Because obviously it shaped your life, and you just spoke so fondly about this amazing experience. Like you said, all you wanted to do was chase them around.
Yeah, 100%, mate, 100%. So I bring it up all the time. That is my most fondest memories growing up, is running around with the old man with a stick and a string on the hill, watching him shoot pigs left, right, and centre. And we had incredible experience. I remember one time we got in on these mob of stags. I'd love to find a photo, but I'm not sure where they are. This is when I was really quite young. I think I was only maybe 8 or 9. And we got in on this mob of stags, just sort of late summer stags, just feeding. We got in and he shot one at 15 metres. I just remember being really dark because I could shoot 15 metres and I wasn't allowed to shoot it. And he shot this stag, and we're there, and he did the classic, set it up, and he's really big on his photos. So he'd set up the camera on the tripod and stuff. And then a big comet come through. I think it was that Halley's Comet that only comes once every 100 years. Wow. Flew over the top, and we've got photos somewhere of us and the stag, and me only just a pup with a comet going over. And things like that are just literally vivid in my mind. But the main thing of people, because it's understandable, people sort of aren't super confident on their kids going hunting. But if they're confident hunting, then well, get into it. But if they're not so confident, then find someone that is. Find someone around that's a hard out hunter and just ask them, like, oh, is there any chance you could take the young fella for a walk? And people are pretty good about it. So I had a friend sort of when I was a bit older, and I think I was 18 or something, and I wasn't like your normal 18-year-olds that get on the piss and piss all their money on the wall and all of that sort of jazz. I was just hunting mad. I didn't want to do anything else. And so this young fella, another family friend of mine that helped me out a lot growing up bow hunting, said to me, oh, this young fella is real keen and all of that sort of thing. Could you take him out hunting? I'm like, yeah, of course. And so his parents, they weren't hunters at all. And but obviously they knew that I was right into it and responsible and all of that sort of thing. And so they used to let me take him out hunting. And so that was quite neat. And so he came out and he shot his first goat and a few other bits and pieces. And then actually just recently he come down last year, late midwinter last year, he come down. I took him out and he shot his first fallow stag. So that was quite cool. He's older now. I think he's 21 or 22 or something like that. And so, yeah, if you have someone that's able and responsible and all of that sort of thing to take kids out, then there's no reason not to. Like, the wee one is 3 this year in September, and we took him out at Christmas time, just hunting with the rifle. And just, well, there's a bit of a key for younger kids. We had some crackers, ginger nuts, and a dummy. And they didn't make a peep. But we spotted a nice 8-pointer feeding up on sort of the top of the scrubby hill. So we had to sneak in, and we were sort of in the open. It was a little bit tricky, but we managed to sneak right in to, I think it was 94 metres. I set up the better half with a pea shooter, and she blew it away, and the wee man didn't make a peep, and he loved it. He loves being out on the hill. So there's no reason not to take kids out. Obviously, you can't take them on an expedition into tar country. But in saying that, my old man took me tar hunting when I was 12, I think it was. It was in 2009. It was the first time I hunted tar. Yeah. But it was quite a user-friendly sort of area. So yeah, there's no reason not to take kids out on the hill or get them a bow. And I had so like growing up, we lived in town, and so obviously I always had my bow, but we had a big wolf edge set up as a target, and a big 6-foot fence and that sort of thing that an arrow theoretically shouldn't go through. And I practiced. I remember as a kid practicing every night. But that was after a long time of having a bow, and the old man being pretty strict on, obviously you don't pull your bow back up in the air and things like that, and shooting close range, like only shooting 10, 15 metres. He was quite strict on that sort of thing. So like I shot my bow in town and all of that sort of thing, and spoke to a few people later on because I used to set it up and I'd go all the way down the driveway. I could get 30 metres, but if there were no cars, I'd stand in the middle of the road and I could get 40 and shoot all the way up.
Yeah, It's classic, mate. You said about taking the wee one up there. It's interesting that you said didn't make a peep. It's funny how kids sort of model and mirror your back, and so if you and your partner are sort of sneaking in and being really, really quiet, it's funny how all of a sudden the wee one becomes really, really quiet.
Oh, that's right. It's like what I was saying earlier about our roaring competition we had last night. Yeah. So even when we're moving around at home here, and he thinks he sees a stag out the window, I'm straight away, shh, there's a stag. Right. So when we're out on the hill, even just pottering around on the back of the farm here, he's always like, oh, there's a stag. And goes quiet. So that's quite good. But this year, he sort of, because he understands a lot more now, he is all about roaring.
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure how that's going to go next time we're on the hill, but take it as she comes.
Yeah. He's got the right time of year at the moment, at least. But yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Well, mate, I better not keep you too long from the wee one and your partner, even though there's plenty of time for it right now. But
I've got all the time in the world at the moment.
Yeah, where do people find you? Obviously, on a few episodes of the Hunters Club, which is on Sky and Vimeo, if people want to check it out. But where do people find you and that Facebook page as
well? You can check me out on Instagram, just Kadin WIllis on Instagram. It'll pop up with my one. And then on Facebook, I've got a bow hunting Facebook page that's Kadin WIllis Bowhunting New Zealand. Mm-hmm. So that's how you can track me down personally. And if you have any questions about bow hunting or shooting your bow or anything like that, then you're more than welcome to send me a message, and I'm sure we can sort something out. Or just the NZ Bowhunters Facebook page is that one that we're speaking about, that is a really cool platform that a lot of other like-minded people are on, where you can just chat about bow hunting.
Yeah, it's mean. Mate, what I usually get people to leave us with is, things that commonly come up in your life, that continue to show up, or sort of a way of living that hasn't done you wrong. If you've spoken about plenty of awesome sort of ways of life that you've enjoyed, what would be something that you'd like to share with people to consider?
Well, I don't know. I wouldn't have a clue.
Put you on the spot, mate.
Yeah, you definitely put me on the spot. I don't know, really. Just get outside.
Yeah.
Get off your phone, get off your... Mind you, I'm a shocker for that. So if you send me a message on Instagram, I'll probably reply like that. But just get outside and get amongst it. New Zealand is one of a kind sort of a place where everything is on our doorstep, whether you're into trout fishing, surfing, or just diving or hunting. Just the works, it's all on the doorstep. So just get stuck in.
Yeah, mate. Well, yeah, as soon as I had that rifle, I was going like, well, what do you do now? I was like, well, I guess you just go do it. And it's that simple.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. It's all there to be done. That's one thing I've always said. It's all there to be done if you're keen enough.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. Dead set. You just got to, you just got to go and have a go.
Wicked. Oh, mate, thanks for this. Bloody awesome. And another thing for people to pass an hour or so with. It'd be great.
Yeah, dead set, mate.
Cheers.